So, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Champ.ie National Hunt podcast. I'm joined on the podcast once again by Colm Finlay from BetXS. Good evening, Colm.
Barry, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. And Ronan Groome from the Irish Field is with us again. Ronan, we don't have any Thomas Coyle with us this week. He's actually ill, so he can't, I suppose, rub it in. But after lost in translation last week. But welcome back to the podcast. And how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Seeing as we have such an action-packed weekend, we better just get on with this weekend's action instead of dwelling on past glories.
Yeah. Well, sure, look, that brings us on to the first point. I suppose performance of last weekend and eye catchers from the week, and we'll rattle through that as quick as we can. Ronan, I'll come to you first, since you volunteered.
Yeah. Can I give you two? Is that a bit cheeky?
Give us as many as you want.
I rattled through two,
quick.
and they're both at Goran Park. The first one was Easy Work, who won really well, and he clocked a faster time than Franco Deport, a horse I kind of flagged up earlier on the podcast as a potentially interesting one for Willie Mullins. He won nicely in the 4-year-olds race, carrying a lot less weight than Easy Work did, but Easy Work ran 4 seconds faster than him to win that maiden hurdle. I think he could be really interesting. Jigginstown bought him he was a bumper winner last year, and Jigginstown bought him, and he's interesting going forward. The other one I thought was really eye-catching is Paloma Blue, who ran second to Get a Bird in that 2.5 mile chase. Now we have an interview. I'm going to give the Irish Field a bit of a plug here. We have an interview with Henry de Bromhead in the Talking Trainer column this week, and he absolutely loved that run from Paloma Blue. He thinks he has him back jumping again. He thinks he has his confidence back. He thinks everything. He was absolutely delighted with him. So I just think he's really interesting going forward. Now, if you remember him, he was very good novice, and a lot of people put him up as a horse to follow last year. He was fourth in the Supreme. He was actually second to Fiona one time in the Punchestown Champion Bumper. He was a real kind of promising younger horse, and Henry really thinks he has him back on track now. So I think that he'll be interesting going forward, maybe for a graded chase next, or something around Christmas at Leopardstown or Limerick even.
Yeah, very interesting horse. He's had a wind up as well, has he, Ronan? Since the last
I
time.
couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I have him here in front of you.
Yeah, I think he has.
He could have had, yeah. He easily could have
ran a nice race. Probably just about, maybe got tired late on. Get a Bird was, I suppose, one that we could maybe take forward to Christmas as well. Interesting race that, and actually the Mangan horse ran a nice race as well. In the Potts colours. Colm, suppose performance of the last week. Is anything that caught your eye?
Well, this might have come too soon for the Irish Field when we were chatting to Henry de Bromhead, but I was quite taken by another Henry de Bromhead, the man of the moment. He had a horse called Aspire Tower in a maiden hurdle there at Punchestown on Tuesday. Won very impressive, I think by 12 or 13 lengths. Henry reckons this horse ticks all the boxes. Look, we all know how competitive the novice hurdle scene is here in Ireland this year. He's going to find a very, very hot race next, probably at Leopardstown over Christmas. But I was really taken by the horse's performance. It was very solid over the flat. I don't think he ever ran a race worse than third. And he's an interesting recruit, and he was impressive the other day at Punchestown. So that's who I'm going to go for my eye catcher of the week.
Fair enough. And since Thomas is not here to brag about Lost in Translation, I'm fully on board the Lost in Translation camp for the Gold Cup, lads. I thought he proved his versatility in spades, and he's put himself bang there, I suppose. And I think Cheltenham, it's interesting, there's mixed opinions whether, I suppose, Kempton or Cheltenham, which would suit him best. I'll be with him on both occasions. I have, well, provided obviously he does the business in the King George, but I think it is a very hot race, obviously, with the two Nichols runners. Surname was impressive the weekend. Clandazoba wouldn't rule him out for the King George either, but I think in terms of he's everything you want now in a Gold Cup horse. I think Lost in Translation, and I was very impressed. I suppose we're used to seeing him, I suppose, go forward. We saw him at Caroline, very exuberant at his fences. Showed Robbie Power obviously different tactics in the Betfair, and as you pointed out last week, Ronan, 6-4, you would have met him, he said if he'd have beaten for the Gold Cup, if he'd have beaten Bristol de May, and he did that. So he's 5-1 now. So I'm not sure if you'd like a slice of that. Just one other mention for another horse last weekend, or over the last week, that caught my eye. John O'Neill's horse in the bumper at Ascot, Soaring Glory. Very talented individual. I think won a nice bumpers at Warwick. I think the second was well regarded. But the bumper he wins here at Ascot, Kid Commando, a Fontwell bumper winner. I thought he'd take a lot of beating in this at Ascot on Saturday. Soaring Glory pulled like an absolute train. He's 16-1 now with Ladbrokes for the champion bumper. A couple of people pointed out as well just about us putting up a Big Bad and Beautiful. She can't run in the champion bumper. She was impressive as well. At Navan, but they were, I suppose, they were my horses for in the last week. I thought very impressive. I suppose we'll start on Friday, lads. Looking forward to this week. The long distance hurdle. What a cracker here, Paisley Park. Two winners here, two ex-winners of the race. Thistlecrack, you know what I mean, Harry. Colm, sure, I might as well come to you first on this. Paisley Park. What a story he was last year, and what's your thoughts on this race? Do you think he might need this? He won first time up last year. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, look, I'm fully expecting to get the job done tomorrow. Look, it was some improvement. Like, I think the horse went up 30 pounds of improvement over hurdles, culminating in his World Hurdle or Stayers Hurdle win at the Cheltenham Festival there last year. Look, Thistlecrack, he's on a bit of a journey now. I wouldn't say, like, Thistlecrack ran fairly solid over chases. A lot of people are saying that was a failed experiment. I think he'd proved himself at the Stayers Hurdle, and the logical thing was to give him a pop over the bigger jumps to see if there was something like a Gold Cup in him. He's coming back to this now, but look, at 11 years, I think he's 11 years old now, so he's going to be 12 years old, obviously this time next month. Paisley Park is right in his prime. I think Emma Lavelle, this horse is the star of the stable. I think they want to keep this winning run going. I think this horse will be fit and prime for tomorrow, and look, I can't see a reason as to why Paisley Park won't win. Interesting enough, she is giving Thistlecrack £6 tomorrow. There must be some kind of penalty he's carrying there for that. But no, look, I'm expecting Paisley Park to get this job done tomorrow, no problems.
For the looks a hot race, Ronan. Paisley Park, he went up £29 last year. Just an interesting one for me in here. The World's End. I'm not sure what you made of his performance at Wetherby. He obviously has to improve a good bit himself to come up to this level, but he has run in the World's Hurdle before. He didn't have the smoothest of campaign last year. Obviously start over fences and come back over hurdles then. Do you think he could come into the mix here, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, he's got the race fitness angle, I suppose. I think it is a good race. And Paisley Park was sensational last season. You're just looking at the Stayers market, you're just thinking it's just a bit light, isn't it, for the Stayers Hurdle? There's no real stars coming up to have a crack at him. That said, if he's going to be beaten, I suppose, at any stage this season, you might take him on tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
He's clear on ratings here with most of them, except Thistlecrack, interestingly, who still holds a rating of 167 over hurdles, so is actually kind of well in on the weights here. Obviously, that's taking a big leap of faith that he's going to run to that sort of mark, but it's just interesting that he does. I wouldn't be playing a Paisley Park at odds on. I just think it's his first time out. It's a 5-runner field. It's 3 miles. It's going to be tactical. You actually mentioned that there are 2 previous winners. There's actually 3. Beer Goggles actually won this race as well, if you remember.
Yeah. You having him now, but go on, yes.
Yeah, he could get He's coming off a huge break, but I think he'll probably make the running. Yeah. I think those 3 mile races are tactical at the most times, not least 5-runner ones. So I just wouldn't be playing him at odds on. I'll just have a watch. I really like the horse. I'd love to see him win again and go on another big winning run. He's everything you want from a Stayers Hurdle, where he kind of like switches off a bit and then takes a while to get going and then powers away at the end. He just reminds you of all the good ones like English Drever and Big Bucks. And he's only 7. He's only had 9 runs. He could easily get better this season. So I like him going forward. And would I be backing him tomorrow? Probably not. I'll just have a watch.
Yeah, I'm going to take him on tomorrow myself with the World's End, I have to say. Just at the prices as well. Obviously, he had the run. jumps very well, but he might have a clearer run of things this year. The World's End. I liked him. I suppose when he won that race in Aintree, and everyone was talking about it. Hasn't had as I said, he hasn't had the clearest run since. Had issues, but I was impressed with how he done it. I think you know what I mean, Harry. He was ready for that race. He was ready for the race at Wetherby, and I just think that sets a good. Sets a good standard, I think, especially after having the run. Lads, we'll come on to the big one on Saturday. Let's not mess around. We'll speak about the 8 points to play later on. I'm sure there'll be a few selections in the the old Hennessy, which is now the Ladbroke. But first of all, I suppose the horse here that is on a lot of people's lips is Cabaret Queen. And in a time, I suppose, when syndicates, horse racing syndicates aren't getting the best press. Our friend in the UK, Mike Vince, SES commentator, spoke to me earlier on today. Has a share, of course, in Cabaret Queen. She's gone up £20, I suppose, in the rating since her change of stable from Dan Skelton. But let's hear now what Mike Vince has to say about Cabaret Queen and I suppose his involvement in the second favourite now for the Hennessy. Mike Vince, of course, the ever-popular racecourse presenter and broadcaster with SIS. Mike, delighted to have you feature again on the Champ.ie National Hunt podcast. I suppose you've been involved in racing a long time now. How did it rank? She must have ranked very high to see her own horse, Cabaret Queen, clear the last in the Munster National. Must have been a special feeling.
I didn't actually get the chance to cheer because I was lucky enough to be commentating on the race. Live 95, the big radio station in Limerick, always broadcasts it live, and they fly me out to cover it. And so although she went clear, what was concerning me more was the fact that 4 of the next 5 were all in JP McManus's colours, and I had to get the caps right. But it was just the most tremendous thrill. Suddenly, as she crossed the line, this thunderbolt hit me, and I thought, wow.
She done it so easily. I suppose you must have been thinking sky's the limit here. What sort of celebrations were had in Limerick that night, or did you venture?
I interviewed Paul Townend, grabbed an orange juice with a few of the lads, and then went actually home. I didn't have a chance to celebrate. I'm not that sort, but I was just so pleased to see everybody else involved in the syndicate. And that's what it's all about, the likes of the postman, the poet, and others just enjoying the success of owning a winner of a big race can bring.
I suppose, Mike, in a time when I suppose racing syndicates aren't getting the best press, what was the story behind this purchase and how were you roped in?
Jack Cantillon and a colleague bought the horse, sold in the Highclere dispersal for 13,000 guineas, and I had my arm twisted by Jack at Royal Ascot last summer to take a share. I'm absolutely thrilled that I did because, as I say, it's all about seeing the man in the street getting closer to racing, and so many of the other syndicate holders simply have never had anything like this before, and that's why it's just a great story. And
Cabaret Queen, she's improved £20, I suppose, since moving to the Master at Close Sutton. Are you confident now there's more to come? And I suppose, how excited are you about this Hennessy? I'd say she'll probably go from the front, will she? She'll probably love Newbury big galloping track.
Who knows is the answer. £20 is an amazing improvement, but clearly she was at home loving her jumping. Willie's taken time with her. I think she might have won on debut at Listowel if she hadn't got the last 2 wrong. And she comes with every chance, and that really is all you can ask for.
We mentioned the big galloping track at Newbury already. She's almost an identical profile to Total Recall, I suppose, who won this in 2017 for Willie.
The big difference, Barry, is that this race, we know, the Ladbrokes Trophy, 24 runners maximum field. There'll be no hanging around, and any jumping or stamina flaws will be ruthlessly exposed. She got a soft lead at Limerick. She jumped for fun. How will she jump under pressure?
And what's happening on Saturday? Are you on track presenter duties, or I suppose where will you be come 3:30? Should Cabaret Queen, I suppose, land the spoils?
I'm covering the race for Independent Radio. I've worked for them as the correspondent for more than 20 years. I don't do monologue interviews, so I'll have to find somebody else to interview if we win. But all I would say is I'll be standing in that winner's enclosure at Newbury, shaking my head in total disbelief if we see the Queen come home in triumph.
And I must ask you, Mike Vince, I suppose you've been racing this season both sides of the Irish Sea. So far, which national hunt animal has impressed you the most?
The horse that I like the most is a horse called Vindication, trained by Kim Bailey, who was a really good winner of the Sodexo Gold Cup at Ascot. Horse didn't quite have it his own way last year. He's back on track, and there is a huge race to be won with him this year. I have no doubt.
Mike, I know you've been doing the rounds, Ditchett, should I say, Pond House. I'm sure you've been to Seven Barrows as well. Give us two, I suppose, horses trained in England, two young horses to follow for the season.
I'll give you one hurdler and one steeplechaser. The steeplechaser was the recent Ascot Novice Chase winner, Angel's Breath. Been a really good field, one of Nicky Henderson's armada of novice chasers. But the one I've been waiting for, didn't disappoint on debut and will go on to big things, is a novice hurdler with Colin Tizard called The Big Breakaway. Make a note of the name. Good luck, Barry, by the way. Hope this goes well and continues to go well with the Champ podcast, and my very best wishes. And now, if you'll excuse me, it's back to biting my fingernails.
So yeah, we heard from Mike Vince there, part owner of Cabaret Queen, of course, Syndicates of Syndicates Racing, and I suppose she sets a fair standard now after a win in the Munster National. Colm Finlay, you give us a show of prices on the Hennessy.
She's not favoured. She's been observed for favouritism by that OK Corral, but I saw for Cabaret Queen. She's currently 15-2. OK Corral 6-1. Mr. Malarkey 9-1. Elegant Escape 10-1. The Rasher counter, a horse I think Barry you might fancy, 11-1. On the blind side 11-1. 12-1 West Approach. 14-1 Boris. You're talking about 16-1 Bar for them.
Yeah, come to me in a second. But Ronan, you love these big juicy handicaps. Did you give Cabaret Queen here? She was a vote here. She, I suppose, very impressive winner in the Munster National, and I suppose she might like Newbury, big galloping track. We heard from Mike. What's your thoughts?
It's a great story. A lot of people just starting off racing, their first kind of taste is in racing ownership. So that's what syndicates are all about. And yeah, as you said, in the light of kind of a bad press for syndicates and racing clubs recently, this is what you kind of need to show the benefits of getting involved in a syndicate, like a mare like this who's basically come from a really low level and is now second favourite for the Ladbrokes. Yeah, look, it's an interesting race. I heard people crabbing it all week, just saying there's no real star there. I don't really go along with that. I don't think it's there's no superstar in it, but I think it's an intriguing race and it's a really deep race. There's a load of potentially well handicapped horses there. Maybe they're not up to Gold Cup standard, but that doesn't make it any less intriguing to try and find the winner. And it's a lot better race than it was last year when there was only 12 runners, if you remember, and good ground.
Yeah, that's right. Poor showing last year.
Exactly. You haven't even seen the winner since last year's Size in Tennessee. I mean, the winner of this is going to be something to look forward to going forward, national or, even the ones up the top there like Elegant Escape or OK Corral, still could be interesting going forward into greater company. Yeah, you asked me about Cabaret Queen. She's remarkably similar profile to Total Recall. If you remember Willie's last winner of the race, like he joined Willie, ran in the Munster National, bolted up, went up the same sort of rise. Paul Townend rode him at Newbury, and he won the Hennessy. Cabaret Queen did the exact same. She had one run in between. She's bolted up in the Munster National, and now she's second favourite for the Hennessy. My only kind of qualm with her is the Munster National she won looked a lot softer than the one Total Recall won. I think Total Recall beat a similarly well handicapped horse in Alpha Des Obeaux that day. The two of them kind of pulled clear. Cabaret Queen beat the likes of Spider Web, a couple of other McManus horses, just not really all finished in a bunch in behind her. Nothing was really looking that well handicapped. And yeah, fair enough, she's won really well. I just think now this is a huge step up in class, and yeah, maybe there's not a quality horse here, but it's a really deep field. So I kind of want to avoid her. I want to avoid OK Corral at the top of the market. I just think he's like a default favourite because everyone's looking for this possible class angle. He's pulled up last time. I'm not even sure he'll stay, to be honest. He's a bit of a hypey horse. He's not run that many times, and he's a 9-year-old. I just don't see why he's so short, to be honest. I mentioned the Rasher counter earlier when we did our seasonal kind of the start of the season podcast. He's well found in the market now. He's 8-1. The one I kind of came down on, I think of the Irish horses, the best chance we have is Baris, Gordon Elliott's horse. I think he needed every yard of the Galway plate. He's had a wind up since that, which is interesting. And soft ground will be absolutely no problem to him. I think they really found the key to him. He ran poor in a few races like the Tyes days, and then he's won 2 races over hurdles and won the Galway plate then. I think he's interesting off 147. But I've taken a chance at a couple of big prices here, and one of them is Daclon Dyke for David Pipe. Just think he's really interesting. He's only had 10 starts. He's a 7-year-old. He's warmed up for this with a second at the course. So I think this has been the plan for him all the time, which it probably has been for a lot of horses. But he's also a course and distance winner, and he won a good race, one good handicap chase at Haydock last season. I think it was the Peter Marsh off the top of my head. If it wasn't the Peter Marsh, it was the one, that good 3-mile race before that. I just thought he was a big price at 33-1. I think you can get about him. And the other one I came down on was the conditional, David Bridgewater. He used to be trained by Martin Hassett here in Ireland. Moved over to David Bridgewater's, ran a nice third at Worcester, and then absolutely, well, he didn't bolt up, but he won real comfortable at the showcase meeting where he beat West Approach. Now West Approach has come out and won again really comfortably. You know, that ride Robbie gave him at the Open meeting. Yeah, West Approach is a lot shorter than him in the market. I just don't think that's right. Like if he's beating West Approach, that's a form boost for the conditional. You know, so he's available at around 20-1, where you're looking at 14s about West Approach. I think the conditional is really interesting. He's only had 8 starts over fences. He's right down the bottom of the weights. He'll like soft ground. He'll love the trip. I just think he could be an improving horse as well. He was around the 20-1 mark. So they're the two I kind of have backed against the field. Do you know what? I'll probably have another go again on Saturday, but they're the two I'm on at the moment.
It's a big, juicy handicap, isn't it? I always love the Hennessy. I believe actually when I asked you recently, what was your favourite moment ever in racing? You said Denman's second Hennessy.
Absolute magic. Absolutely. If that's not is that, it has to be up in your top 5, surely.
Yeah, it was pretty special, all right. But I'll stick with Hurricane Fly's second champion hurdle now. That'll do me. Anyway, back to the Hennessy. Just rolling. Yeah, 2 bigger priced ones for yourself. Yeah, I agree with you with conditional. Interesting, nice jumper of a fence as well. And he fairly put West Approach in his place. Yeah, at Cheltenham. I looked back at that race actually the other day. Colm, I'll come to you, and then I'll, I suppose, sprout out my opinions. You tell us who you came down on.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried that we're going to end up calling about 25% of the field here. I'm going for a on the blind side. I was very, very taken by his 4th place finish in the Sodexo Gold Cup behind Vindication. If you go back and look at that race, no horse overtook as many horses in the last 2 or 3 furlongs and on the blind side done that day. He was given a very wide ride that day. I'm not too sure what that was, a strategy looking for better ground. I think it was quite a wet day, if you remember that Sodexo Gold Cup and Vindication run there. But he travelled quite a long way around, so he would have covered a fair bit more distance that day as well. He ran like as if the extra 2 furlongs of this, I want to call it the Hennessy, but it's the Ladbrokes, is going to be for this one. I think at 11-1. His market has changed exact same at 149. I'm banking on the fact that the extra 2 furlongs of this race is going to be right in this number. You know what another thing I like is the fact that Nicky Henderson just lives down the road. I love a short little journey in a horse box for a horse going to the races. I think this is like maybe 15 minutes away from Upper Landbourne where Nicky trains, and that's just even a small thing that I like to see in a horse, and I'm going to back them. And I think I've landed on the blind side here. He's currently 11-1. It was a bit bigger in earlier on the week there, but that's kind of what one I'm going to go for in this one.
Yeah, fair enough. Just 2 things to keep in mind. You've both went with double figure prices for the Hennessy, but I think it was something the favourites. Horses at single figure prices have a remarkably good record in this race. The one I came down is the Rasher Counter. Ron, you've already mentioned him. Yeah, look at it. I suppose he's a course winner. Progressive novice chaser last year in handicaps. I was very impressed with his performance at Uttoxeter. his last run of last year. Now I thought that was he's got up to 149 now. And I don't think he's hit the ceiling yet. Now he's had his prep. This has been the plan. He's had his prep run at. I'm not sure he ran over hurdles there in October, I think. So he's going to be spot on for this. I think you said he was 8-1. He'd probably go off around that price. I can't see him going off a double figure price. Nice profile for the race, and yeah, he was the one. I suppose another one actually just want a quick mention to, but I'll only be siding with the Rasher counter. But just one that I wouldn't. Two Taps was an interesting. It was off for something 700 odd days, and ran a nice race in behind a horse we already mentioned, the World's End up at Weatherby. So he's one interesting going back over fences for the Skeltons. But listen, that's enough to talk of the Hennessy lads, because we've so much to talk about. We're going to go on to Fairyhouse now and soon, but just. Yeah, so lads, we'll move on up to Newcastle to the fighting fifth. Very poor showing here, lads. Probably the weakest fighting fifth hurdle I can remember. We won't stay on it too long. Thoughts, I suppose, Boover there for the year. Weak looking division. Ronan, what's your thoughts on him going forward for this season?
Yeah, it just goes to show you what the sparsity, is that even a word, sparsity, the lack of anything really coming through in the champion hurdle division. It's the plight really. All the good 2 mile hurdlers, or the prospective good 2 mile hurdlers, are now being bought and sent to Dubai and Hong Kong and things like that. And you don't get it obviously with the 3 mile chasers and the Gold Cup horses, because obviously they're not going to be getting sold to Hong Kong or Dubai. But the prospective horses that might have gone 2 mile hurdling are now, there's a market for them on the flat, an international market, and the result is we're getting kind of weak champion hurdles. And look, fair enough to Boover there, he's won 2 and he's been around a while, and you get it hard to knock him. I've just never been a fan of him because of that, because he's kind of won his champion hurdles in what's been a kind of weak era. Look, he should win on Saturday. In what's he 3-1 on? Silver Streak is there, obviously. Has to improve leaps and bounds, but he looks the only one who could get near him really. Lady Buttons is a nice mare, but you got to think they're playing for prize money here. And Bouvedar will get off to a good start. Barry Garrity going up to ride him, and yeah, he can take from there. He could go with Kempton then and win that race as well, and he'll only really get tested, I suppose, when we get around to Cheltenham again. Yeah,
Barry Garrity going up to Newcastle. He rides a nice novice up there as well, Chantry House. Just want to keep an eye on. But Colm, just coming on the whole Bouvedare thing, I heard someone sum it up very well recently. When it comes to Bouvedare, he was beatable. He was beatable at his best. So what makes you think 2 or 3 years on, as Ronan said, like he's getting on? I'd be more inclined to, I suppose, take on a horse, I suppose, a younger horse, the likes of your Fusel Raffles, as I've pointed up. Classical Dream can't be, I suppose, ruled out of that. And Ronan, actually, will come to you on a horse that runs in Hatton's Grace that you might think may enter the picture on Sunday evening. But Colm, thoughts on, I suppose, the champion hurdle division as a whole? And I suppose this is very useful.
I think everyone knows what my thoughts are on the champion hurdle there. I unfurled a nice chunky Ladbrokes stock. Actually, that wasn't a chunky Ladbrokes stock. It was a very thin Ladbrokes stock there about 2 weeks ago. But everything Ronan has just said there has made me feel better about my Elixir de Nuts champion hurdle bet, because it is a very weak division. And the fact of the matter, I think the weakness, especially from a UK perspective, is best mirrored in the fact that if you go through the runners, you got Bouvedare, you got Pentland Hills and Fusel Raffles. They're the top 3 by a long way, and they're all trained by Nicky Henderson. So he's trying to send them to the 4 wins, not have them run against each other. After that, the next one in the betting, believe it or not, is that Silver Streak. Now, I know he finished third in the champion hurdle, a bit of a freakish one there last year at 80-1, but that probably shows exactly what Ronan was just talking about there. But that's why I'm sitting there going, geez, my Elixir de Nuts, I'm just kind of going, I'm really looking forward to seeing this horse run over Christmas. A small part of me wishes that he might have prepped him for a race like this. But look here, I expect the Bouvedare to win tomorrow. But sorry, what were you saying?
You were speaking just to be earlier about this podcast Yankee that we're all going to do, and I'd say Ronan Groome, you probably put forward real steel, will you? This is the retirement bet now, and Colm Finlay maybe elixir nuts. We'll come on to that maybe next week. We'll have a little think about it. We might go in for on the Christmas special column, which you're hosting. But lads, listen, enough of Newbury, enough of all that crack. County Meath, Fairyhouse. This is as good I suppose, Royal This is as good of Bar 1 meeting as I'm very excited about it, more so than any of the last couple of years. It always is a good day's racing. But we'll start with the Broyle Bond, lads, the 1 o'clock. Envoy Allen. Lads, he's very short for this. It's a deep renewal. Tom isn't here to talk about Abracadabras, but Colm, we'll come to you, sure. Envoy Allen, we impressing him up the north, and thoughts for this race.
Well, look, I've come full circle on Envoy Allen. I kind of wanted to take him on initially. I don't know, because the artisan within me wants to pull apart the champion bumper and tell how the horseman that's me can pick the kind of horses who's got a better long-term future than the champion bumper winner. But I think not. I think Envoy Allen is the real deal. I think he's going to win this race handsomely tomorrow. I could even say now, I was looking at the champion hurdle betting earlier on there today, and guess who's blue boxing for the champion hurdle? This is next year's running. Envoy Allen. So I think this horse is being held in the highest of highest regard, and he's also blue boxing for this race this weekend. And if I think about it, I don't think the Shively Park guys are backing him. I don't think the Chickens Head horses are laying their horse. This can only be a yard-driven gamble. I think this is the stable staff of Gordon Elliott's guys coming out and saying, look, we know ourselves that this Envoy Allen is just leaps and bounds ahead of this Abracadabras. And I'm going with him.
It's not what I'm hearing. Well, I'm hearing this Abracadabras, much faster horse. Over 2 miles, Royal Bond. I was very impressed with him at Navan, Ronan. We'll stick with Envoy Allen first. Just thoughts on him, I suppose. He's pretty short for this. It's a deep race. Obviously, you have the 2 Jigginstown horses, Midnight Run, also Abracadabras Midnight Run. Midnight Run impressed me a lot, actually, down in, I think it was Cork. Won a nice race with Coolreevy in behind. You obviously have Savia Pimpernel, a horse, I suppose, who ran a lovely race at Cheltenham behind Kellistan, who sets a fair start. This is a deep race. Thoughts on Envoy Allen, and would you be taking him on here?
Yeah, I think I've heard the exact same as you, Barry. My colleague was at the Gordon Elliott Open morning on Wednesday, and I heard that Gordon was kind of thinking that Abracadabras could just have the speed over 2 miles against Envoy Allen, and that maybe the best that we see Envoy Allen is over further in time. Look, we'll find out on Sunday, I guess, but they always have kind of talked about him as a Gold Cup type of horse in the future. So maybe it is a case that he just gets outspeeded here. But look, he deserves to be favoured. Whether he deserves to be odds on is another story. As he said, it's quite deep. But the form of his first race has worked out really well. Front View, he beat easily there by 6 lengths. He's actually also in this race, and he won his next race. And the third was in Two Cats, who should have went very close to winning last Sunday at Navan before taking out Pat Healy after the line.
Shocking.
Which was horrible. Yeah, I was watching it there. I was in the stand, and there's just like real sense of shock in the place. And thank God Pat's okay.
Yeah,
yeah. But it's a real deep race. You mentioned Midnight Run. I give him a chance after after the hurdle he won down in Cork. I also I'm just looking now to see if Joseph's other horse is declared embittered. I thought he did it nicely at Nace when he got the better of the well-touted Blackbow, who's been well kind of hyped for a while since the bumper days. And Embittered beat him fair and square. The front 3 came clear that day, and they came clear of a Henry de Bromhead horse whose name is escaping me, but he won already this week. Another Jigginstown horse. Sorry, I can't think of his name, but he won.
Forgive me, go on.
With 17 lengths back to him in 4th, and he's already won this week, so he's boosted the form. The time of that race is actually really good as well. It was. You know that it was the day that Surin won the Fishery Lane hurdle. She was carrying a lot less weight than him, and Baird basically had the same time, and that was a great tree. And this was a maiden hurdle. It was a good time that he posted. So I'll be interested in him if he's declared. I think he's around 14-1 now. We're not going to be having a bet until I see declarations tomorrow morning. But as you said, it's a deep race, and if you push me for one for win purposes now, it would probably be Abacadabras.
Well, I'm picturing the race in my mind, and what I see happening here is Envoy Allen going off, trying to make obviously his stamina count out in front. But I think Midnight Run now might be on his girt. And just turning in, I'm not sure if Jack rides Abacadabras. He'll just be swinging on the bit. And he's just literally gone by. I think those three horses, for me, from what I've seen so far, I think they might be just, I suppose, above the rest. But it's a cracking race, lads, and I can't wait. And shall we see the two?
Very, I might just mention on the race, and this could be an interesting betting strategy to have. I reckon Abacadabras could probably be backed at around 11 to 10, 5 to 4 on track without Envoy Allen. That would probably represent a bet. Instead of backing Envoy Allen straight up at odds on, take Envoy Allen out of the race and back Abacadabras at around 5 to 4, 11 to 10. That's probably a bet that might appeal to me in the day, because I know a lot of the bookies on track will be pricing up without to differentiate themselves from against the Betfair Standard SP and the bookies SP. So look, that could be a bet that might tickle my fancy on the day.
Yeah, I don't know. Michael O'Leary is coming. He'll be coming for Envoy Allen with those two, I think. But aside with Abacadabras, I think he's a quick horse. And of course, Tom loves him as well. So it's unfortunate he can't, I suppose, elaborate a little bit more on the Royal Bond herd. But lads, coming on, listen, sure, it's action-packed on Sunday. Shall we see the two of you guys up there on Sunday? 100%. Look forward to it. The Drinmore Novices Chase, lads. Sam Crow. I'm hearing sort of mixed reports. Obviously, we know last year he was disappointing when champion hurdle route. A lot of people thought he should have went over fences straight away. I thought, listen, the race, like, it exactly freaking beat a whole pile up the north. He was good. I thought he was careful at one or two early on, which I suppose you like to see in a novice. He was clever. Jumped well in a hole in the hole, but this is, for me now, Fakir Dudery, lads. Ronan, I'll come to you on this one first. Fakir Dudery, in my opinion, in my book, should be disputing him for favouritism here. Like, I mean, based upon, obviously, we all know Sam Crow. People can't wait to see him going over fences. That was always the Fakir Dudery, maybe slightly different, comes in here and I suppose it's unique in that this race just opened up recently to 4-year-olds as well. But he comes in here getting a lot of weight, and I thought his beginner's chase, he was mighty impressive up at Navan. You might give us your thoughts here.
Yeah, I agree with what you said, and I know you're saying that he should be disputing favouritism. He might well be by the time the race comes along, because he's only 9 to 4 now, and Sam Crow's a general 6 to 4 shot. Look, Sam Crow did it well up the north, but he beat nothing really. He beat a horse that was rated 118 over hurdles last year. Like, if he wasn't beating him the way he did, then there would be real problems. He jumped well, everything went well for him, but it's not a patch on the form that Fakir Dudery actually shown at Navan when he beat Mellon and jumped really well there. That's pretty strong form, and if you think about it in the context of putting a line through Mellon is the horse that basically had the champion hurdle standard or the kind of like 2 mile top grade 1 standard last year that Sam Crow struggled so hard with, struggled to really get a grip switch, and Fakir Dudery's beat him, albeit getting the £8 allowance, but he does get that allowance on Sunday. So yeah, I agree with you. I think come the day he probably should be close enough to Sam Crow in the betting. I'd still have Sam Crow probably marginal favourite just because of everything with him, that he might be back on track now, that he was so promising as a novice, and even though he was disappointed last year, he still was, he ran second in a grade 1, he ran 5th in and around Mellon when in that grade 1 at Christmas as well. And for all that, it was
a chance though, Ronan, aren't you? You're still taking a bit of a chance. You're still taking a bit of a chance there going in on Sam Crow based on what we've seen last year, and I suppose you're only as good as your last run in my book.
Yeah, but he's still, he was running second in those sort of races. He's probably still running to a higher standard than the likes of Fakir de Duries was running in juvenile race. It's bad. It looks much worse because of what you expected of Sam Crow, but he's still running okay races in grade 1, 2 mile races as opposed to Fakir de Duries, who is running, is progressive and going through the ranks. That's my only point. I still think he should be favourite. Just a couple of others in the race. I think it's great that connections of Ronald Pump, another syndicate, another real small syndicate, have plumped up the €8,000 supplementary fee to have a go here.
That's a great story, isn't it? That's a great, yeah.
Yeah, he's from. There's 4 lads in it, I think, or 4 or 5 lads. They're from Laois and Limerick, hence the name, the Laois and Limerick Syndicate, and that's like the colours of the horse. He was really progressive last year. I think he started off at a mark of 102 and ended up at 145. He won the big novice handicap hurdle at the Easter Festival at Fairyhouse, and he won really well on his beginner's chase debut. Or his chase debut the last time at Fairyhouse as well. So 3 of his 5 wins have come at Fairyhouse. So you could see why they want to have a go here. He's interesting. I wouldn't write him off. And Burrow Saint, the Grand National winner, would be an intriguing runner here. You got to think that he probably would be better over further, but he qualifies as a novice because he only won his beginner's chase in March, I think. So they might have a go here. They could take on novices for the last time. He won't be a novice the day after. So he's obviously rated 156. So if he was able to run anywhere near that rating within 3 or 4 pounds, he probably be close enough to the one to beat. But you're taking a big chance on him if he's coming here first time out over this trip. So yeah, an intriguing race. But I can see where you're coming from with Fakir de Duries, and maybe he'll be a better price on Sunday morning, and we can have a look at it then.
Well, if it was to press you right now at the prices, who are you siding with?
Yeah, if you had to press me, I would go with Fakir de Duries. Yeah, I'd take him at 5-2. I think is probably a little bit big, but yeah, we want to see. Like, obviously, you don't know now if Battle Over Doyen was to run or something like that, or Champagne Classic, who I'm kind of presuming aren't going to run. It could change everything. But yeah, if you were to press me, I wouldn't be having a bet. But if you were to press me, yeah, I would go with the juvenile Joseph's horse.
Just be interested in tactics. Obviously, Fakir de Duries, he went on at Navan. Obviously up in trip now as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I'd like to see him go. I'd like to see him go from the front here. Obviously, maybe Sam Crow as well might have his thoughts on that. But I'd like to see Fakir, I suppose, making a test out in front. I think it will suit him up in trip as well. Colm, I think I know who you're going to go with here.
Well, the first thing I should just comment on quickly on Sam Crow that I took from his race at Den Royal is how right-handed he jumped that day, especially the last. He must have gone like 5 or 6 widths of a horse right at the last.
Yeah.
I'd be keeping if I was a Fakir de Duries, I'd not be coming up on his inside anyway on Sunday. I'd be keeping kind of wide enough bird of him. I think he's a bit skinny. I agree with you guys. I echo the sentiment. I think these horses might get close to co-favoritism. I wouldn't even put it beyond the fact that Fakir de Duries will go off favourite. Like the £8 allowance for a 4-year-old this time of the year is quite a big allowance. Like this, if they were to run in the JLT or the Arkle, he'd be only getting £1 off these horses. So getting 8 now, he'd really want to be, if he's putting himself into the Cheltenham picture, he'd want to see a big run from him. But a horse I landed on, and a horse that Ronan mentioned, is that Ronald Pump. I watched that Fairyhouse run his beginner's chase back 3 or 4 times, and I was looking at the start of the race to see how they must. I was thinking to myself, they must have gone off slowly here, because the turn of foot that Ronald Pump showed in the closing stages of that race was incredible. It was a real turn of pace that won in the race that they there in the beginner's chase, and I was quite taken by him. It's a local horse to me here I'm on the Dunsany side of Chocolate. He's just down there in Kilmessan. A great story as well. I think, look, with the exit of the likes of Jigginstown and these big owners from the game, maybe a re-emergence of these types of syndicates is probably what the game needs again. That's what the game was like when I remember it first in the mid-90s, and I think a horse like Ronald Pump would just be a perfect story now, and he's 3 for 3 at the course as well. If I said talk to Fakir de Duries, the one thing I actually took away from him at Navan was that he's quite a diminutive horse. He's very small. Like when you're standing there alongside Mellon, he was about maybe a hand and a half, 2 hands shorter. Maybe that was just whatever the camera angles of the day now. Look, I'm not too sure. That I like big and strapping. That's the word I like to see when it comes to horses.
You might make your mind up down there. Yeah. You might. Yeah.
So finally, the horse at the prices Ronald Pump at 6-1 kind of. It's probably more of a heart than a head bet, but I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, Factor Dudery for me. Colm, if you could be in the County Meath GA time, could you? If we could get you out there now to check him out in the paddock on Sunday, maybe you might change your mind and come into the Factor Dudery camp. But Ronald Pump, just Ronan, the point you made about him, obviously the syndicate, obviously, but the supplementary fee of 8,000, is that what it was? Was it to get him in here? Because that's significant enough, because I think in the quotes after the race at Fairyhouse and his beginners, I think the comments were that put him away until Christmas. So obviously maybe it's a case to make hay when the sun shines. I just think maybe the class edge, horses like Sam Crow and obviously say Factor Dudery, it might have the class edge over Ronald Pump, but I can see I suppose why people are getting excited there. Coming on now, lads, to the big one, the Hatton's Grace. It's a battle of the ladies here, lads, and I suppose Benny the Jew, we all know what she was touted obviously to go in at Cheltenham last year, a highly talented mare, lads. But Ronan, I'd say you can't decide. I think you had Apples, Jane and Honeysuckle in Monday columns in the Irish field in recent weeks. Have you made your decision on this, or what way are you thinking for the Hatton's Grace?
I'm torn, Barry. I'm torn between two roses.
Just make sure and pick the right one. Go on.
Well, you're going to tell me it's the wrong one, whatever one I pick. So hold on. I just had a quick point because I'm writing about this race in the field on Saturday, and there's just a point I wanted to make, that it's the three mares. There could actually be four mares in this race, which could be half the field when we get declarations. And I just think that's a really good state for Irish racing to be in. A decade ago or so, you wouldn't have even heard of mares running a race like this, or more than one. Obviously, Voller La Vedette was a mare who did really well in this race in years gone by, but she was one. I think there was two mares who ran in this race in the 7 years before Apples Jade started her sequence, and now the three favourites for this race are all mares, and it's down to the work done by HRI putting on this new program for mares, like graded races and things like that, the allowances, and then the ITBA Weatherby's National Hunt Mares bonus, which encourages people to keep their mares in training. Anyway, I digress. Apples Jade, I think she's going for her fourth run and win in this race. If she's going to come back at anywhere near her best, it's going to be at Fairyhouse over 2.5 miles, going right-handed with Jack Kennedy on her back, and I'm prepared to give her another chance, especially at these prices. I just think the run at Navan wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. And if you look at all of her seasonal debuts down the years, they've all been below par compared to the rest of her season.
Can I stop you there? Just because it's always good to have a bit of debate. I don't mean to. I'll let you back in a second, right? But you said it just on that. I'll argue this. Her run at Navan wasn't as bad, right? When you have a horse finishing in the second in the Grand National, getting you off the bridle, coming around the bend at Navan over 2 miles, and this is a horse I suppose spoke about that was going to be winning champion hurdles. If you're given that, like, how can you say that this horse is champion hurdle? Well, you didn't say that, but are you willing to forgive her after that? Bacardi's like 1.5 something.
I've no Barry. If you go back and look at that form, Apples Jade's actually beat that horse you talked about, Magic Light, which is a good mare. Won hurdle races last year. Won good mares hurdle races last year. She's ended up beating her by 15 lengths. So yeah, you can talk about her getting off the bridle, but the end result is she's got beaten by 15 lengths.
Right.
You know, I mean, the horse that beats the both of them is Bacardi's. Is a good horse on his day. He's a dual grade 1 win in novices as a novice hurdler. And look, Apples Jade's got beat. She's disappointed. She's 4-1 on. You're going to be disappointed with that. I'm just making the point that if you look at all of her races, her first race of the year, like even last year in that same race, she won 11 lengths, but she beat the likes of Jesky on the way down. her main market rival there fell at the last when he was just getting into the race. That was Identity Thief. You look the year before, she struggled to get the better of Jers Girl in the same race. The year before that, she ran second to Rashan at Down Royal. Like Rashan, she just, it just her seasonal debut. She can be vulnerable, and I think that's just not really been talked about with her. Look, she might be gone, but I'm just thinking right-handed at Fairyhouse. You watched this race last year. I was watching it on Racing TV today. She's absolutely destroyed them. She's bolted up. They tried that. Wicklow Brave tried to go with her, and he's ended up finishing out the back of the television, just trying to keep up with her, and she's won by 20 lengths. I just think if she gets out in front of these mares, and if she doesn't, maybe that's it. Maybe they pull stumps then and say no, but just give her every chance. Look, I love Honeysuckle. We mentioned her for the Champion Hurdle as an possible outsider. She's three of her 5 wins have come over this course and distance, and 4 of her wins and all have come at Fairyhouse. It looked an obvious race for her, and I'm glad they're going to have a go. And obviously Benny Dadu is interesting. The thing about Benny Dadu, I wonder, is we've never actually seen her at this time of the year for Willie Mullins spring. I just wonder, is that any sort of factor? Will she be the same type of mare this time of year? I can see why she's favourite off the back of that really good win in Otoya as well, and she should have won the mares hurdle obviously last year, but for coming down at the last. But look, it's an intriguing race. I can't wait to go. It's one of those races you go down and watch them in the parade ring before, and it'll be tense, and you go and watch the race and see how it unfolds.
Absolutely, Ronan. Well, look at, if you're willing to forgive apples, look at if she comes back and does, and it'd be interesting to see if she did win this, if she did bounce back, where they would go with her then. But look at, I don't mean to be tipping up, I suppose, all these, up and coming flashy novices all the time, but Honeysuckle for me, I mean, it's look, she has to step up. She certainly has to step up. Obviously, Fairyhouse, we saw she absolutely loves Fairyhouse. Won there four times, I think, in total. Honeysuckle, but I think everything is in her favour, and that she's had a run. She seems well in her. She seems well in herself. Her jumping is excellent, and I say she's one that could possibly maybe go over a fence in time. But Ronan, just quickly on Honeysuckle, you did mention that you'd be very interested, I suppose, if she did win something like this, a Grade 1, that maybe she might not stick to Mayor's Company. Maybe it's an option for her to enter something like the Champion Hurdle market.
Yeah, I think so. And like, this is what you want with your, if you back a horse like this for the Champion Hurdle, and you're listening to things what people are saying. So Henry de Brom is saying, yeah, we're going to go for the Mayor's Hurdle. You just have to ignore it. Like, obviously it just sounds silly, right? But you have to kind of just put that to one side and go, right, maybe, right, you're trying to second guess what trainers are thinking. So you go, maybe like they go for that 2.5 mile, the Hatton's Grace at Fairyhouse, because she's won races at Fairyhouse. Then the picture changes, because if she wins a race like that, then Henry de Bromhead starts thinking, right, okay, she's a Grade 1 winner in open company now against geldings, against the good mares. Maybe she's better than the Mayor's Hurdle. Maybe let's have a go at the Champion Hurdle, or at the Irish Champion Hurdle, and let's just see if she is. If she loses there, fair enough. We go back to the mares then. You know, that's what you're kind of thinking of. You're getting crazy prices about these mares because people just write off Champion Hurdles for them straight away as soon as they hear the trainer going, yeah, she'll go for the mares. Or no one knows what Cheltenham target for sure. No one is 100% what Cheltenham target they go for at this time of year. People might have an idea what it is and they might end up in that race, but a lot of the time it doesn't work out like that. So that's why I was happy enough to have a chance to take a chance on her at a crazy price for the Champion Hurdle, just in the chances that the picture changes. We just talked about how soft the Champion Hurdle market is at the moment. You know, it's ripe for someone like an up and coming horse like this to go and have a crack at it. You know.
Yeah, I think she's very, very interesting. I think she'll take a lot of stopping in this. As you say, you've mentioned Bapples, Jade. To me now, I wouldn't be willing to forgive her. I wouldn't show the same level of forgiveness as you, Ronan, with her, and the likes of Benny the J, obviously, you pointed out the unknown. Cern is interesting as well, but Honeysuckle for me. Colm, thoughts on this battle of the ladies?
I suppose the first thing I should probably point out is in relation to the betting, and this is an anti-post market, so the betting that I'm about to call out to you is perhaps more of a reflection of these horses taking their chance as opposed to these horses' well-being. But I can tell you that Benny to Do is drifting and that Bacardi's is shortening, which probably says to me that Benny to Do is not going to take his chance in this race. That'll be disappointing because it would have been a really. I wanted to see that horse in person. I think the whole, as Ronan pointed out, this horse running in November in Fairyhouse as opposed to the first time we've seen her in Springtown was going to be a very interesting dynamic to this race. But it looks to me now, observing the betting, that I think Bacardi's could well be Willie Mullins' sole runner in this race. Honeysuckle's actually been backed right now as we're speaking 2-1 into 7-4. Going back to Applesjade, and like I have to put my hands up as well. I was the man. I came on the Findley's roundup that we'd done that evening. I was in my shop in Blyver, and I was all emotion. I was out there. No, Applesjade, she's finished, and I was throwing my toys out of the pram, and I was just. But then I think that following Thursday we had a podcast, and Ronan just brought his calm voice just brought over the calm, and I took a few deep breaths, and now I'm coming around to the idea that perhaps, you know what, forget about that. First of all, forget about the springtime, because she had been bad in the spring before, and she'd bounce back. So drilling in exclusively on that Navan race. I think I pointed out in the podcast, I was actually watching that race on Racing TV, and Ruby Walsh pointed out something interesting on her in the parade ring, and that she had her summer coat on, and she was the only horse in the parade that day that still had her kind of summer coat still uncut, and that suggested to him that she might have been a small bit behind in her preparation. She'd probably been taken off from the fields a bit later than most of the other coordinated horses. Maybe I could forgive that. Maybe at 9-2, like if she goes off at 9-2, that would be the biggest price she's been in about 20 runs, I think. The biggest price she's been in about 3 and a bit years. I think for like she's won this race 3 times. She's not even that old. She's only 7 years old. I feel like we're talking about a really, really old horse now at this point. She could easily bounce back. And I think in hindsight, if she goes off at 9-2 and wins this race, as Ronan just described her second goal, I'll be pulling my hair out. And I think at 9-2 at the moment, especially with Benny to Do not probably running, I think that has to be the bet. Now, look, the one thing I'll say as well is that I am probably being very dismissive of Bacardi's. Bacardi's, it sounds like they might have, that's a horse that I think Willie's probably made a mess of. I think they weren't sure if he was going to be chaser or hurdler. He's bouncing back and forth from both games, and I think if you look at the quotes again in the Racing Post, it sounded like there was a big discussion at home there that Paddy Mullins eventually won there in getting this horse to go over hurdles. Look, maybe the winning of that Navan race could be what wins this race. Maybe we're just throwing out that Navan race as a whole here and dismissing it as being a pipe opener for Applesjade and Bacardi's. We eventually found out. I'm gonna get rid of the honeysuckle. I'm gonna stick with either Applesjade or Bacardi's, and my decision is gonna rest on the day when I'm in the betting ring there at Fairyhouse, and I will be there.
Passionate response from Colm Finlay.
Barry,
yeah, I felt like
Yeah.
Can I just make another small point on Applesjade? She's rated 162, right? So, look, yeah, fair enough. She mightn't. That's 162 off the back of all those brilliant Grade 1 wins last year. Fair enough, she mightn't run back to that standard again. And maybe she doesn't, but maybe she doesn't have to. You take out Benny here, who's 157. Like Colm just said, that's interesting. I actually haven't seen that till this evening, that she was drifting. And usually when that happens with a Mullins kind of horse in the anti-post market for a Grade 1 race during the week, that it does kind of suffice that they don't run. So it'll be interesting for declarations in the morning. But if you take out Benny, right, Applesjade is 162. Even if she underperforms, say, I don't know, £7, £8, maybe she runs to 155 here, Honeysuckle's still got to come up and beat her. And I know I'm making the case that she can do that, but that doesn't, that then you're starting to look at the prices and you're going, Applesjade 9-2, Honeysuckle 2-1. Honeysuckle's still got to get up to that standard and prove it. She obviously has serious potential to do so. But the gap in the prices there just seems too big to me. Look, Bacardi's is interesting, and Colm's dead right. He's been messed around. They tried to make a chase out of him twice and then reverted back to hurdles as like a second option. And now this is the first time he's got a clear run at the hurdles. He could progress into a horse, but you realise he was only he was off level weight to Applesjade at Navan, and he has to give her £7 here. Applesjade had a Grade 1 penalty at Navan, so they raced off level weights. So not only is Applesjade fit has race fitness now, which I've just said I think is a big option, but she's also going right-handed at maybe her favourite course. So I just think she has a good chance of turning the form with him. So yeah, look, it's a brilliant race. We could talk all night about it, I suppose.
It's brilliant. Yeah, I don't think we've talked. I don't think we've spoke about a race for as long on the Champ.ie podcast this season. But yeah, look, put Honeysuckle. Look, Honeysuckle. Like I suppose she, as you said, look, she does have to step up. But like she was only running novices last year. We saw with I suppose horses in novice. Remember Coney Gree won a Gold Cup as a novice. Put her in graded races last year. How would she have done? As the fellow says, have you no eyes? She I think she's a cracking mare. I think I'm very. She's the horse I'm most looking forward to seeing this weekend. I think that's Honeysuckle. But she's it all to do, of course. Listen, lads. Very quickly, the 310, it's the great ace, it's the 2 mile handicap hurdle. Ronan, you definitely have one hidden away. Actually, Colm, I think you mentioned one. You've one hidden here, have you? For this one.
Well, look, first of all, just to point out, look, it's a tricky race to assess at this point in time. Like, there's going to be probably a bunch of claiming jockeys. We don't know the final fitting as things currently stand. But there's 19 runners in it, so that's probably not a million miles off of where it'll end up. The only kind of thing I thought about the race is I think maybe Cocoa Beach, perhaps Mark is probably a bit too high based upon his time when he won. I think they went too fast that day. I think I might need a bit further as well. Articulum as well in the fences form could improve. He's had a few problems, but look, hopefully he'll improve. And Janadale, he's up £10, but it's hard to guess how much he had in hand when he won the last time. He was eased down towards the finish. And look, at the tricky one. Look, I'm not going to give too weighty of opinion this time. That's a race I'll probably wait to see the betting on Sunday before I really give it a good analysis.
Yeah, fair enough. You mentioned Janadale. I was on him up the north. Yeah, there's another horse in here. There's a couple of McManus's horses. We'll see who's declared, but horse one best turned out and travelled like an absolute dream that day behind Janadale. Hearts or trumps for Desmond McDonough. But the interesting one in here for me is Ciel de Neige. Ran last year after basically his first run in Ireland or the UK, was at Cheltenham last year, ran a cracking race. Was it in the county hurdle running actually, Ciel de Neige?
No, it was in Fred Winter.
In the Fred Winter. He was only juvenile last year. Yeah, and interesting that he's bought by McManus as well. So I'd be very interested in him if he was declared. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, really interesting. I think JP holds the key to this race because, as you mentioned, Janadale up the north won nicely. Ciel de Neige, that was a huge run, as you said as well. First time up for Mullins at Cheltenham. And I like the way you're thinking, who won twice at Galway, looks seriously progressive. He's the horse that I suppose got a bit of a controversial ride at Fairyhouse around this time last year when he couldn't kind of like fast finishing off what looked a kind of make your own up mind ride, I suppose, from Mark Walsh. But look, he's back here in a big 2 mile grade A race. It looks a real good race. The one I had my eye on was Terence O'Brien mare there, Lake Milan. She won over fences the last day down in Cork, and she won really well. She actually beat Terence O'Brien's other good horse, Articulum. She looks like she could be just well handicapped over hurdles now because she's gone up £10 over fences, and she's only she's off a 140 over fences now, but 126 back over hurdles. It could be, she's thriving through the summer. She's got race fitness on her side. I think she could be interesting and probably a big price when you look at all those JP horses there as well. So yeah, we'll wait to see declarations because JP's obviously going to have one or two of them at least in the race, and they'll probably shape how the market kind of develops, I suppose. Yeah,
I think so. Definitely holds the key in this one. And lads, the hashtag 8 points to play. I suppose that we've been running this for the last couple of weeks. Ronan, I see you'll be hoping for a big prize winner this weekend. Alan Doyle is currently on top, lads. Alan was on the podcast last year. He'll probably be on after Christmas with us. He's a little bit tied up at the moment. He's on 32 points profit. The rest of us have a bit of work to do. Colm, you're level after 2 weeks. Is there anything, I suppose, lads, this week? And what horse are you most looking forward to this weekend? Or any, I suppose, horses that you'll definitely be backing? Colm or Ronan, I'll come to you first.
Those two I mentioned in the Hennessy, Declan Dyke and the conditional, I'll be back. Probably going to back the conditional. I've already backed Declan Dyke, and I'm probably going to back the conditional right now after I get off this podcast. And then what am I looking forward to at Fairyhouse? Applejade. And more just interested in how that race kind of develops out. I probably will back her on the day. I'll just wait for declarations in the morning. And there's a couple of others I'll be having to go out on Saturday for the old 8 points to play. I'll have a good look at it tomorrow. And as you said, I have ground to make up. So hopefully we can get a winner at least.
And we couldn't, poor old Tom wasn't on the podcast this week to give you loads of stick about Bristol de Mai last week.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Tom, isn't it?
Colm, this weekend? Yeah, we're always focusing on the negatives. We'll start pointing out, I suppose, the winners that we put up as well. Colm, you speak.
Look, a horse I'm looking forward to this weekend, I'm probably going to go for Ronald Pump, because that's just one of those. When I was giving my verdict on that race, I nominated him as being kind of a heart selection. I love the syndicate component. I love the small stable. I love the fact that he's trained local to me. I love the fact that he had to be actually supplemented for the race. Like, I'm not too sure what the means are of the 3 or 4 syndicate owners of this horse, but stumping out $8,000 in a few weeks before Christmas, like, we all know that there's going to be a Christmas tree up in our various living rooms in a few weeks, full of presents there for little ones dancing around, and to be stumping up $8,000 before Christmas, I just think it'd be a really, really nice story if this syndicate get in the winners enclosure there at Fairyhouse, and it'll be a bit more atmosphere. Look, no offense to all the Jiggintown horses there, and JP, they're obviously massive contributors to the sport that we love. But God, like, as I said, I think syndicates could be a big thing again with Jiggintown leaving the game and other things. It'd be great to get a flashback to how it was back in the mid-90s, when, like, a lot of the best Irish horses were invariably owned by syndicates like this, and that's just one horse that I'm particularly looking forward to. Also, look, what used to be known as a Hennessy, Ladbroke was called this year. I'm looking forward to that race. It's always a race I really look forward to. And I echo Ronan's sentiment to talk about Denman and his second Hennessy win back in those days. That was probably the closest thing to an Arkle-esque performance I've seen in my lifetime. He was top weight that day, and he garnered the nickname the Tank, and that was the race that epitomised his tank-like description more than any other race that he earned in that career. And I'm just looking forward to that race in general.
Sensational.
And I got the on the blind side in that race.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. The Rasher counter for me, as I said, progressive in novice handicaps last year, and I think ticks a lot of boxes coming in here for the Hennessy, for Emma Lavelle, and I think he will go off a single figure price as well. So there's still, I think, 11-1 out there on this fella. Another one as well, just double checking that he's going tomorrow. Well, he was down to go, but if he does, Dayan the Carjack, someone might be able to update me there. If he runs tomorrow at which is Friday in the novice chase, Alan King's horse. We all know about Harambe in the Great Wood, but Dayan the Carjack was a horse, I think, I mean, a lovely debut. He's 132 rated hurdler, but he won a race actually that featured Pim, who won last weekend in a handicap at Ascot. So I think he would be a horse. He jumps very well over 2.5 miles, and he might get him a slightly bigger price. That's the end of Carjack. And also on the novice side of things, Fairyhouse probably be a very sharp price, but very interested in him. He goes up in Newcastle as well, so very good. He's making the long journey up there as well. Don't forget Abracadabras as well, lads. Going to turn over Envoy Allen on Sunday. We'll see you guys there at Fairyhouse. I just want to wish Thomas Coyle as well, get well soon. Tom, who's not well at the moment, but we might see him there on Sunday as well. But thanks very much, lads, for joining us for yet another episode of the Champ.ie podcast. Thanks very much, Colm.
No problems, Barry. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Tom.
Ronan, you mean?
Sick.
Oh, Ronan, sorry.
Cheers, Barry.
Absolutely. And to Mike Vince as well. And we wish Mike the very, very best with Cabaret Queen as well. As Ronan pointed out, 60 involved in Cabaret Queen. So Newbury, it's all systems go for the Hennessy on Saturday. So the very best of luck, lads. And we will see, Colm will see you on Sunday for Finlay's Roundup.
100%. See you then, Barry.
See you guys.